There are moments in a man's life when the sting of rejection cuts deeper than any physical wound. That moment when you gather your courage, walk up with sincerity in your voice and clarity in your heart only to be met with a polite smile, a hesitant pause, and a no. It feels personal. It feels like the universe just whispered to you that you're not good enough. But here's the truth that most never tell you. Rejection, especially from women, isn't always personal. In fact, more often than not, it is a reflection of potential within you that hasn't yet been realized. You see, rejection is misunderstood. It isn't always a mirror that shows you what you lack. It's often a window that opens into the man you could become. Every no is a secret invitation to evolve, not to change who you are in essence, but to become who you are destined to be. When a woman turns you down, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. It may mean your energy isn't aligned with where she is or where she's going. And that, my friend, is not a condemnation. It's a call to rise. Many men fall into the trap of thinking that they must be perfect to be accepted, that they must look a certain way, speak a certain way, or achieve a certain level of success before they are worthy of love. But perfection is an illusion. Women truly feel what anyone feels is energy, authenticity, purpose, confidence. When you stand before someone stripped of pretense, rooted in self-respect and growth, you become magnetic. But this version of you doesn't happen overnight. It is built through the fire of experiences, through the weight of your own setbacks, and yes, through rejection. Rejection, when viewed with the right mindset, is one of the greatest gifts life can offer because it doesn't lie to you. It doesn't sugarcoat your flaws. It doesn't feed your ego. Instead, it pushes you into the uncomfortable truths you need to face. The truth that maybe you've settled, that you haven't pursued your purpose as fiercely as you could, that you've been asking others to love parts of you that you haven't learned to love yourself. Oh, let's be honest. How can we expect someone else to value us if we are still doubting our own worth in silence? How can we be upset at someone for not choosing us when deep down we haven't even chosen ourselves? We wake up, scroll, distract ourselves, a wish for validation, and call it confidence. But real confidence, the kind that speaks without words, that walks into a room and changes the temperature, comes from inner peace. It comes from discipline, from healing, from falling down and getting back up over and over again until you can finally look in the mirror and say, I know who I am. This is where the secret lies. Rejection isn't about you not being enough. It's about you not being there yet. It's about your growth not being complete, your path not being walked far enough, your voice not yet holding the clarity it was meant to have. And women, whether consciously or unconsciously, sense this. They are intuitive. They don't always choose based on logic. They choose based on how they feel around you. And if what they feel is uncertainty, insecurity, or desperation, they instinctively pull away. Not because they see you as unworthy, but because they sense that you don't yet see your own worth clearly. But here's where it becomes powerful. You can use that moment, standing in the wake of rejection, as fuel. You can let it harden you, turn you bitter, or close you off. Or you can let it wake you up, let it inspire you, let it remind you that you are not finished yet, that there are higher mountains to climb within yourself, that there's more to discover in your purpose, your craft, your soul. Rejection doesn't mean you were denied. It means you were redirected towards becoming a man of such integrity, depth, and presence that next time, it's not even about being accepted or rejected. It's about choosing who you allow into your world. When you start to view rejection this way, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop performing, you start building, you start becoming, you begin to pour your energy into mastering your habits, sharpening your mind, developing emotional intelligence, and living a life that's rich in value. And then, like magic, people begin to notice. Women who once overlooked you begin to wonder where your light came from. But by then, something inside you has shifted. You're no longer the man who needs their validation. You're the man who has his own. Have you ever seen a man who doesn't have the most expensive clothes, the flashiest car, or the perfect body, but the moment he speaks, people listen? The moment he walks at him, that's not a man who was never rejected. That's a man who was rejected, but chose to rise, chose to learn, chose to become more. He didn't let rejection define him. He let it refine him. That could be you. You are not defined by the woman who turned you down. You are not defined by that unanswered text, that ghosted message, or that painful goodbye. You are defined by what you do after, by whether you let that rejection destroy your self-image or rebuild your mission. The pain you feel is temporary, but the lessons you take from it are eternal. If you carry them with humility, you will grow stronger. If you carry them with bitterness, you'll only stay stuck. There's something powerful about owning your journey, about saying, yes, I was rejected, but I became better because of it. That statement carries maturity. It carries accountability. It means you didn't hide behind excuses. It means you didn't try to change for her. You changed for you. And ironically, that's what draws people in. When you no longer need them to choose you because you've already chosen yourself. Look back at the moments that broke you and ask yourself, did they end you or shape you? The truth is, most of your growth didn't come from comfort. It came from pain, from being forced to face what you were avoiding, from losing people who didn't see your value so that you could finally see it for yourself. Rejection strips away illusion. It makes you raw, vulnerable, honest. And in that honesty, in that vulnerability, you find your true power. Don't seek to be accepted. Seek to be aligned. Seek to be whole. Seek to be purpose-driven. The woman who truly sees you will not reject you when you're walking in your truth. And if she does, she's not your loss. You're hers. Not because you're arrogant, but because you've worked too hard to settle for someone who doesn't recognize the fire you carry. You're not here to beg for attention. You're here to command your destiny. You're not here to chase validation. You're here to cultivate self-worth. And when you do, When you stop seeing rejection as a wound and start seeing it as a window, you'll step into a power that can't be taken away by anyone's opinion of you. You are a masterpiece in progress. And like every great work of art, not everyone will appreciate your early strokes. But that doesn't mean the final picture won't be breathtaking. Keep building, keep becoming. And one day, you'll look back and realize, oh, the rejection you once feared was the very moment your greatness was born. Because rejection isn't the end. It's the beginning. The moment you stopped trying to be chosen and started choosing the man you were meant to be. There's something incredibly powerful about a man who walks into a room and doesn't say a word, yet everyone notices. He doesn't demand attention. He doesn't try to be heard. He doesn't perform for approval. And yet somehow the air changes around him. That's not charm. That's not luck. True confidence. And it speaks far louder than anything words ever could. In a world where noise has become the norm, silence has become rare and powerful. But not all silence is created equal. There is a kind of silence that comes from fear, timid, shrinking, unsure. And then there's a kind of silence that comes from strength, a deep, grounded presence that doesn't need to speak to be understood. That's the kind of silence that women notice, that people respect, that you feel in your bones when a man who knows who he is walks by. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to make an impact. You need to be the most certain of yourself. Because confidence isn't about what you say. It's about what you believe when you say nothing. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you stand, the way you look someone in the eye without flinching, and the way you hold your peace when others try to break it. Confidence is energy. It's presence. It's the deep knowing that you are enough. Not because of what you've accomplished, but because of who you are becoming. And it can't be faked. You can dress it up, talk it loud, act it out, but people feel the truth. Women initially feel the truth. They're not listening to your rehearsed lines or your borrowed words. They're feeling your state of being. They're not attracted to your performance. They're drawn to your presence. You don't need to convince anyone to value. The man who is truly confident isn't in the business of convincing. He's in the business of becoming better, becoming sharper, becoming wiser, and most importantly, becoming whole. He doesn't chase approval because he already accepts himself. He doesn't seek attention because he already knows his worth. And that right there is what makes him attractive. We live in a culture that teaches men to be performers, to put on a mask, to compete, to boast. But real power doesn't come from performance. It comes from alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and words are aligned with who you truly are, you don't need to do much to be noticed. You just are. Your stillness speaks. Your silence speaks. And what it says is, I don't need to prove anything to you. I already know who I am. Think about it. How often do we scramble to say the right thing, to make her laugh, to look good, to say what we think she wants to hear? But in the process, we abandon our own truth. We betray our own voice. Confidence doesn't come from knowing all the right lines. It comes from not needing them. From showing up with your raw, real, unfiltered self and saying, this is me, take it or leave it. The honesty, that bold vulnerability, is rare and it's magnetic. There's nothing more liberating than no longer needing validation. Not because you don't care, but because you've grown to value your own opinion above anyone else's. And ironically, that's when people begin to validate you the most. Because confidence is contagious. When you're rooted, others feel safe around you. When you're clear, others want to follow you. When you're enough for yourself, others start to believe you're enough for them too. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance is loud and insecure. It overcompensates. Confidence is quiet and secure. It simply is. Arrogance says, look at me, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I'm at peace with me, and I wish the same for you. The difference is depth. Arrogance is surface level. Confidence is soul deep. One pushes people away. The other draws them in. There's a reason women are drawn to confident men. It's not because of looks, not money, not status. It's because confidence makes feel safe, seen, chosen, not as a prize, but as a partner. A truly confident man doesn't need a woman to complete him. He invites her into a life he has already built. He doesn't lean on her to feel valuable. He brings value with him, and that is irresistible. If you want to be that man, don't start by trying to change how others see you. Start by changing how you see yourself. Speak kindly to yourself. Show up for yourself. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Every small discipline builds trust. Every time you follow through, your inner voice gets louder. And that voice is the foundation of your confidence. Because the more you trust yourself, the less you need others to trust you first. Stop waiting to feel confident before you take action. Confidence doesn't come first. Courage does. Take the step. Make the move. Say the word. Oh, show up even when you're uncertain. Confidence is built in motion, not in thought. Every time you show up scared and do it anyway, your confidence grows. Until one day, what once terrified you becomes your new normal. There's a kind of beauty in silence. Not the silence of weakness, but the silence of strength. The silence of a man who's fought battles no one knows about and doesn't need to announce them. The silence of a man who's comfortable in solitude, who doesn't need to fill the void with noise or people or praise. The silence of a man who listens more than he speaks, and when he does speak, his words carry weight. Become that man. Let your actions speak. Let your eyes speak. Let your peace speak. You don't have to force anything. The woman who's meant for you will hear you even when you say nothing, because your energy will speak a language she understands, and that language is confidence, steady, calm, rooted, free. We've been taught to fear silence, to fill every moment with talk, with enter distraction. But silence is sacred. It's where you hear yourself. It's where you face your truth. It's where confidence is born. In the quiet moments, when no one is watching and you choose to show up for yourself anyway, that's where you build the kind of presence that can't be shaken. So walk into every room like you belong. Not because you're better than anyone else. Oh, because you're not competing with anyone else. You are your only comparison, your only mirror. And when you learn to love the man staring back at you, the world starts to do the same. Speak less. Feel more. Try less. Trust more. Stop trying to impress and start trying to express. Express your truth, your values, your goals, your heart. The right people will feel it. The right woman will feel it. And she won't be drawn to your words. She'll be drawn to your essence. She won't fall for your performance, for your presence. That's the secret. Confidence doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait to be noticed. It doesn't rely on applause. It shows up quietly, powerfully, and fully. And when it does, the world listens, even when you say nothing at all. So the next time you walk into a room, don't worry about being charming. Don't worry about being funny. Don't worry about being chosen. Worry about one thing only, being real. Being grounded, being at peace with who you are. Because the man who carries himself with quiet confidence doesn't chase anything. He attracts everything. And in that silence, in that sacred, powerful silence, you will find not only your voice, but your destiny. Every moment you're alive, you are communicating something with even opening your mouth. You are radiating an energy that speaks before your words ever arrive. That energy, your presence, your mindset, your beliefs, tells the world who you are and what you expect. And here's the truth that changes everything. You don't get what you chase, you get what you are. You attract what you project. People can feel you. They don't always know what they're feeling, but they feel it. When you walk into a room, you're either a lighthouse or a shadow, a source of calm or a carry of chaos. And most importantly, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to attraction, you are either projecting holiness or you are projecting lack. And what you project determines what comes back to you. If you are projecting insecurity, that energy is felt. If you are projecting neediness, it pushes others away. If you're constantly seeking someone else to make you feel complete, you'll attract people who will only show up to mirror your emptiness. Not to heal it, not to fill it, but to reveal it. Because that's how the universe works. It doesn't give you what you wish for, it gives you reflections of who you are. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how people stuck in cycles of rejection, heartbreak, or dysfunction often find themselves repeating the same story over and over with different faces and different names? It's not because they're unlucky. It's because they haven't changed the energy they're projecting. You don't break patterns by finding better people. You break patterns by becoming a better version of yourself. You attract what you are ready for. So if you are attracting pain, oh, maybe there is pain you haven't faced. If you are attracting disrespect, maybe it's time to check the respect you hold for yourself. This isn't about blame. It's about power. Because once you realize that everything you experience is echoing what you emit, you stop waiting for the world to change and you begin changing you. This is especially true when it comes to women. A woman doesn't just respond to your words. She responds to your energy. She listens to what your presence says. You can tell her you're confident, but if deep down you don't believe it, she'll feel that contradiction. You can act secure, but if your foundation is shaky, she'll sense the instability. You don't attract women by pretending to be someone you're not. You attract them by becoming someone you're proud of, someone rooted, authentic, intentional. A man who is truly confident doesn't need to speak about it. His body language says, his eye contact says it, his calm says it. He walks with purpose, not panic. He speaks with clarity, not confusion. He doesn't need to perform because he's already aligned with who he is. That kind of man isn't chasing anyone. He's building something. And women feel that. They feel that pull, not because he's flashy or smooth, but because he's real. If you're tired of being rejected, overlooked, or misunderstood, maybe it's time to pause and ask, what am I projecting? Because every interaction you have is a mirror. If you're attracting emotional chaos, you might be carrying unresolved wounds. If you're attracting detachment, maybe you've been emotionally unavailable to yourself. If you're attracting games, maybe it's because you've been playing small, afraid to show up as your full self. This is where the work begins. Not on changing the world around you, but on refining the world within you. When you shift your energy, everything else shifts. When you start choosing peace over drama, purpose over distraction, healing over hiding, you stop resonating with what used to break you, literally vibrate at a different frequency. And that frequency attracts better, not because the world changed, but because you did. You attract from your level of self-worth. If you believe you deserve shallow love, you'll accept breadcrumbs. If you believe you're unworthy of deep connection, you'll sabotage intimacy. If you believe you must earn love through performance, you'll attract people who keep you performing. But when you heal, when you choose to believe that you are already enough, not someday, not after success, but now, you begin to attract people who treat you accordingly. That's the power of projection. Not the fake projection of pretending to have it all together, but the true projection of being at peace with your journey, of honoring your growth, of loving yourself in the becoming, not just in the arriving. You don't have to be perfect to be magnetic. Oh, you just have to be honest. Authenticity is rare in a world full of masks. But when you wear none, when you show up raw and real, you shine. This doesn't mean you won't face rejection, but even that changes. Rejection no longer breaks you. It comes guidance. Oh, you start to see it not as a blow to your worth, but as feedback.
Yeah.
As redirection. You stop taking it personally because you know what you offer, you know what you bring. And if someone can't see it, that's fine. Someone else will. And if no one does, You still will. You are not here to chase love. You are here to radiate it. Not just for others, but for yourself. You are not here to impress. You are here to express. The more you align with your truth, the more your life will align with your desires. You don't attract what you wish for. You attract what you are. So be kind of man who inspires respect, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. Look around your life right now. The people you're attracting, the opportunities or lack of them, the relationships, the patterns, they are all mirrors. And they're all offering you the most honest question you can ask yourself. What part of me created this? That question isn't always easy, but it is freeing, because if you created it, you can change it, you can shift it, you can raise your standard, and your life will rise with it. You attract people based on the boundaries you uphold, based on the values you live by, based on the way you speak to yourself in private. That's the level that truly matters. That where the magnetic pull is born, not in the smile you show others, but in the strength you build when no one's watching. That's silent inner work. That's your power. That's the foundation of what people feel when they meet you. You don't have to manipulate energy. You have to master your own. That's where your attraction lies. In the man who can sit in silence and still feel valuable. In the man who can walk away from things that insult his soul. In the man who can choose discipline over comfort, truth over ego, vision over short-term pleasure. That man doesn't need to chase anything. He becomes the thing worth chasing. And once you realize that, you stop worrying about who is or isn't choosing you. You start focusing on what you're choosing, what you're aligning with, what you're available for. And what no longer deserves your time, your effort, or your peace, because your energy is sacred, your growth is sacred, your purpose is sacred. And if someone recognizes that, it doesn't dim your worth. It reveals theirs. You are always projecting something, always attracting, always creating. So start creating intentionally. Walk with awareness, speak with clarity, love with depth, respect yourself so profoundly that others have no choice but to meet you on that level or walk away. Either way, you win. Because when you master the energy you carry, you master the life you live. And when you become the man who no longer projects lack, but instead projects light, strength, wholeness, and truth, what you attract will no longer just be attention. It will be alignment. It will be purpose. It will be people and opportunities who recognize your frequency, not because you shouted, but because you radiated. So become the kind of man who doesn't need to chase, impress, or prove. Become the kind of man who attracts not by pretending, but by being. That man doesn't fear rejection. That man doesn't shrink to fit. That man knows what he projects is what he receives. And he makes sure that what he projects is powerful, because that is the secret. You attract what you project. Oh, there is a moment in every man's life when he looks at his reflection, not just the one in the mirror, but the reflection that comes from life itself, from his relationships, his failures, his patterns, his successes. And in that moment, he begins to realize something deeper. Attraction isn't about looks. It's not about charm. It's about possessions. It's about direction. It's about knowing where you're going. Because in a world full of distractions and noise, the man with purpose stands out. Purpose isn't a job. It's not a title. It's not something someone hands you or something you wear. Purpose is the fire you carry, the clarity you move with, the reason you get up, and the way you move when no one's watching. And there is nothing more attractive, nothing more powerful than a man who is walking with intention, who knows what he stands for, where he's headed, and who refuses to be swayed by what's temporary. You see, people often think attraction is about doing more, saying the right things, posting the perfect pictures, crafting the right image. But none of that lasts, because people don't fall for your image. They fall for your energy, and the most magnetic energy of all is purpose. Purpose is focus. It's discipline. It's presence. And women, whether they realize it or not, are deeply drawn to a man who has somewhere to go. When a man moves with purpose, his presence changes. Oh, he doesn't need to be loud. He doesn't need to show off. His power comes from within. It's the way he says no to distractions, the way he protects his time, the way he values his growth. That kind of man isn't asking, how do I get her attention? He's too busy building a life worth sharing. He's too busy making an impact. And ironically, that's what makes people pay attention. There's a confidence that comes from knowing your direction, from living for something larger than yourself. It sharpens you, it humbles you, it grounds you. Stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop needing approval. You stop falling under pressure. And when you stop chasing the wrong things, the right things have a way of finding you. Purpose turns noise into silence, fear into fire, confusion into clarity. When you're walking in purpose, rejection doesn't shake you because you weren't seeking validation in the first place. A woman can feel that. She can feel when you're desperate to be chosen, and she can feel when you've already chosen your path with or without her. The first one repels. The second one attracts. The truth is, purpose brings peace. When you're living with mission, your self-worth isn't up for debate. You're not asking others to complete you. You're inviting them to join you. A woman isn't looking for someone to orbit her world. She's looking for a man with a world of his own, one that's built with intention, passion, and values. Not perfection, arrogance, just direction. Look around you. The men who are constantly doubting themselves, constantly needing approval, constantly feeling empty. It's not because they're unlovable. It's because they're disconnected from their purpose. Because when a man is connected to purpose, he becomes a force. He's not lost in pleasure. He's not distracted by every curve, every compliment, every temptation. He has standards. He has vision. He doesn't backbone. This doesn't mean he doesn't feel pain or loneliness or doubt, but those emotions don't derail him. They refine him. because he knows what he's here for. He's not trying to impress. He's trying to impact. And that's a rare kind of man. Purpose gives you something no one can take from you. It gives you identity, not based on likes, followers, or attention, but based on your own truth. And the moment you start living in that truth, your energy shifts. You become calmer, sharper, bolder, and people feel it, especially women, because here's the secreting: a man on a mission doesn't need to seek love. He becomes, well, not in words, but in action. He lives with so much clarity, integrity, and conviction that it's impossible not to notice. Women don't want perfection. They want presence. They want a man who knows what matters and lives like it. So if you've been wondering why things aren't aligning in your relationships, maybe it's time to stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what's missing in my purpose? Because you'll never feel truly worthy in love until you feel worthy in life. And that worthiness doesn't come from someone else's acceptance. It comes from your own commitment to your calling. You were not born to wander aimlessly hoping for approval. You were born to walk boldly in the direction of your dreams, to take risks, to fall, to learn, to rise, to build, to create. And in that process, in that passionate pursuit, you will meet people, not just any people, but the right people who are drawn not to your performance, but to your passion. A man with purpose is irresistible, not because he's chasing, but because he's chosen. He's chosen his growth, his path, his values. And because of that, his love becomes a choice, not a need. That's what makes it strong. That's what makes it lasting. Love that flows from a full heart, not a hungry one. You are meant to be that man, the one who builds before he boasts, the one who protects his time and energy like it's sacred, because it is, the one who doesn't waste his days chasing validation, but who pours his heart into something meaningful. That kind of man doesn't ask, how can I make her like me? He asks, what kind of life am I building and who deserves to walk with me? You don't need to be rich to have purpose, or famous, or powerful. You just need to care deeply about something bigger than yourself. Maybe it's your art, your craft, your message, your family, whatever it is. Pursue it like your soul depends on it, because it does. And when you pursue your purpose, everything else becomes clear. The right people show up, the wrong ones fade away, and love becomes less of a search and more of a result. So take your attention off being attractive and place it on being anchored in truth and passion, in meaning, because purpose doesn't just attract women. It attracts peace, stability, respect. Purpose gives you direction, and direction gives your life power. You were not born to drift, to not lead by control or noise, but by presence, by depth. Oh, discipline. By discipline, you don't need to convince anyone to love you. Just become someone you love, someone you admire, someone you would follow. And when you do that, others will too. There's a light in your eyes when you're driven, a strength in your voice when you're aligned, a gravity in your energy when you're walking in purpose. That is what women feel. That is what people respect. Not the surfeit, but the soul. And the soul set on fire with purpose can't help but shine. So if you're tired of trying to be enough, stop looking outward and start looking inward. What's your mission? What matters to you? What are you building? Who are you? Who are you becoming? Because the most attractive man is not the one who has the most attention. It's the one who has the clearest direction, the one who wakes up every day with intention, gives his energy with wisdom, and lives his life that means something. That man doesn't chase. He leads. He attracts, not with words, but who he is. And that is your power. That is your ed truth, because purpose it is the most attractive trait a man can have. There comes a time when you look at you and realize that you've spent far too long trying to meet expectations, trying to impress others, to gain attention, to earn love, to fit in, to be enough. But at some point, that game starts to feel empty. The applause doesn't fill you. The validation doesn't last. The external praise becomes hollow. And in that silence, one question rises above everything else. If I weren't trying to please anyone, who would I choose to be? Oh, that question is where everything begins to change, because it calls you back to yourself, not the version of you that performs for the world, not the version chasing approval, but the real you, the one you were before the world told you who you needed to be. The man you were designed to become, not perfect, flawless, but powerful in his presence, peaceful in his soul, and relentless in his integrity. A man you would admire. Imagine for a moment, what would your life look like if your every action was guided by that single standard? Is this something the man I admire would do? Not based on ego, not based on fantasy, but grounded in your own truth, values, and purpose. What would change if you woke up tomorrow and decided to stop chasing people and instead started chasing the best version of you? Because that man, the man you admire, he already exists inside you. He's not out there in some future you hope to reach. He's within you waiting to be activated. Every decision you make, every habit you practice, every thought you entertain either brings you closer to him or pulls you further away. You don't find that man, you build him day by day, choice by choice. And it begins with respect, self-respect. When you admire someone, you let them settle. You don't let them make excuses. You expect greatness. You hold them accountable. So why don't we do the same for ourselves? Why do we give our own power away so easily? By saying yes to things we don't believe in, by staying quiet when we should speak up, by shrinking when we should rise. Because we forget that we are the architects of our own identity, that we are not victims of our past, of our circumstances. We are authors of our growth, our values, our story. And when you choose to be the man you admire, you stop looking to the world to write your worth. You write it yourself. That kind of man doesn't wait for motivation. He lives by discipline. He doesn't gossip. He doesn't complain. He doesn't lower his standards to feel accepted. He lives with backbone, with principles,
with focus.
He doesn't beg to be seen. He chooses to be consistent. He doesn't try to be liked. He tries to be respected, especially by the man in the mirror. And here's the truth: the man you admire might not always be understood. He might not always be the most popular, but he will always be respected, because people can feel when a man has depth, when he has a code, when he has done the inner work, when his word actually means something, when his silence has weight, when his love has intention, when his presence speaks without noise. That's the man who leaves a legacy, not because he shouted the loudest, but because he lived the truest. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to rise when everyone else is settling. It's hard to stay kind when the world feels cold. It's hard to stay humble when you've been overlooked, to stay focused when you're surrounded by distractions, to stay honest when lies seem easier. But that's exactly what separates a man who talks about character from a man who embodies it. You won't always feel like doing the right thing, but do it anyway. You won't always be rewarded for your integrity. Do it anyway, because every time you do, every time you choose to rise, to lead, to grow, you are honoring that higher version of you. And with each small act of discipline, that man becomes real, tangible, visible in your habits, your decisions, your relationships. Stop asking the world for respect if you haven't yet given it to yourself. That's where everything starts. Not with how you treat others, but how you treat your own dreams, your own goals, your own time, your own body, your own mind. Oh, respect is built in the unseen moments, when no one is watching, but you show up anyway. And no one is applauding, but you keep going anyway, because the man you admire wouldn't quit. He wouldn't ghost his own potential. He wouldn't speak defeat into destiny. He would fight with wisdom, with honor, with discipline, not to impress others, but to inspire himself, to look back one day and say, I didn't just exist, I lived. I didn't just speak, I stood. I didn't just dream, I built. And the most beautiful part, when you become the man you admire, you inspire others to do the same. You raise the standard, not by shouting it, but by living it. You become a lighthouse, not a lifeguard. You gift. You don't staple, you show them what's possible. That's real leadership. That's real power. And that's what the world is starving for. Not more performers, but more examples. So ask yourself, if the man I admire were watching me today, what would he say? Would he be proud of the way I handle pressure, others, the way I honor my word, the way I lead myself in private? If not, don't wait, don't hide, don't make excuses. Just start. Start now. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to become more, willing to take ownership, willing to demand better from yourself, not out of shame, but out of love, because you deserve that. You deserve to be proud of who you are, to walk into rooms with quiet confidence, to lead with kindness and strength, to love without fear, to speak with clarity, to stand without apology. And that begins the moment you stop settling and start becoming. Be the man you would admire, not someday, not when it's easy, but now and every day after.